In this section, we are going to learn all about Firebase Cloud Functions. But before we dive straight into writing code, I want to first talk about what Cloud Functions actually are. Firebase Cloud Functions are part of a category called Serverless Computing. There are a number of serverless computing offerings from various companies, including AWS Lambda, Azure Functions, in addition to Firebase Cloud Functions. I'll come back to what serverless computing means in a minute, but first I want to try and draw an analogy for Firebase Cloud Functions to help you understand better what it is. You have most likely used an API before, an application programming interface, to fetch data from the internet. Maybe as part of another one of my courses, you made a Pokédex using the Pokemon API, or built a Star Wars trivia app using Swappy.api. Simplified, the way you fetch data from an API is to send an HTTP request from your client device, i.e. a mobile app. This request goes to the API, which is code that lives on a server somewhere. That server is managed by the API owner. As a more concrete example, I am currently hosting a small API for Star Wars data on Heroku. The code was written in Node.js on my computer in VS Code, and then I deployed it, or loaded it, onto a Heroku server. So the API receives the request, then performs some function based on what the request is. It could send data back to the client, like a Pokemon object. It could register a new user. It could process a payment. At this point, you might see where I'm going with this. API endpoints are actually server-side functions. It is code hosted on a server that can be executed via HTTP requests. So now back to our Firebase Cloud Functions. Firebase Cloud Functions are also code that we write and deploy to be hosted on a server somewhere. We can call or execute these functions using HTTP requests, just like other APIs you might be familiar with. You can make the function do whatever you want: return a Pokemon object, register a new user, or process a payment. One big difference, though, is that distinction of serverless that I mentioned earlier. When I talked about my little Star Wars API I host on Heroku, that is a managed server. I have to make sure it has enough bandwidth, spin up new servers if necessary, and do a bunch of other stuff that I, as a mobile developer, may not know how to do. So, how is serverless different? First of all, serverless does not mean that there are no servers involved. This is a common misconception. It simply means that you are not responsible for managing them. In the case of Firebase Cloud Functions, our code is stored in Google's cloud and runs in a managed environment. There's no need to manage and scale your own servers. Firebase automatically scales up computing resources to match the usage patterns of your users. You never have to worry about credentials, server configuration, provisioning new servers, or decommissioning old ones. It's pretty dang nice. On top of that, we get access to a lot of Firebase integrated features. We've talked about how you can trigger a server-side function with an HTTP request. But with Firebase Cloud Functions, you can also create functions that respond to specific Firebase events, such as running a function when a new Firebase user is created, or running a function when any document is added, updated, or deleted from a specific collection. You can write functions that are executed on a regular basis, such as creating data backups at the end of each day. The things you can accomplish as a developer once you master Cloud Functions increases exponentially. So, let's create our first Cloud Function. I will see you in the next one.